Hello and welcome back to the Wrestling Group. I'm your host, as always, Ryan, and today we are going to be doing another top 5 rankings video. Today it's going to be based on one of my favourite wrestlers of all time, Randy Orton, the Viper, the Legend Killer, the Apex Predator himself. Absolutely one of my favourite wrestlers for the past, 20 years, 2 decades. Randy is someone that I will literally watch no matter what they're doing. I say that, but then no, I lie. I couldn't stand Randy Orton with Matt Riddle. I'm sorry. I apologise to those of you that liked RK Bro. I hated every second of it, and I know Randy enjoyed it himself. That's fine. Doesn't mean I have to enjoy it. I absolutely couldn't stand it. But apart from that, everything else is like watchable. I will watch anything else Randy Orton does, but I just hated that segment. So don't expect any RK Bro matches to be in this top 5 list, because they wouldn't even be in a top 50 list. But there you go. Like I say, Randy Orton has been one of my favourites for the past 20 years. I always liked Randy when he first come in. I thought, oh, this kid, let's see, he had the victory against Bob Holly early on. So it was like, oh, what's going on here? They were going on about third generation superstar and stuff like that, and he looked quite decent. But it wasn't really until Evolution that I started to really start paying attention to Randy. Obviously, like probably most of yourselves as well. And then around 2004, with his rivalry with Mick Foley, the Legend Killer gimmick being in full swing. I mean, I don't know anyone that didn't like the Legend Killer gimmick. I thought it was absolutely phenomenal. He had a great run as IC champ, and from there he just become my absolute favourite, and I'd watch him do literally everything. And I am one of the very few people that actually enjoyed his little face run in 2004 as well, when he became world champion. Obviously he's a much better heel than he is a face, but I just watched the Randy Orton documentary, the WWE Legends biography, last night, come out earlier this week. Fantastic. If you haven't seen it, go and watch it after this video. Really, really good episode. Randy goes into a lot of detail into things to do with like his painkiller addiction, his accidental overdose and suspension from the WWE, and how close he was to death on more than one occasion. So it was really, really interesting. Obviously, he goes through like the Marine Corps and stuff, and then through his WWE career, and about being world heavyweight champion a lot younger and earlier than what he had anticipated. So, having said that, like I say, we are doing our top 5. So, I have swerved doing a Randy Orton video for a long time. Like, being one of my favourites, you'd think he'd be one of the first ones to do. But I actually really, really enjoy Randy Orton's in-ring work as well as his character work. So I know there's a lot of people that aren't fussed on his ring work, and they call him Randy Orton, because it's the in thing to do. The same idiots that probably booed John Cena for 20 years and then he went away and come back, and now they think he's, the greatest ever. But so for me, it was really hard to even think about whittling down to just 5. I did contemplate doing a top 10, but then when I was thinking of that, then it was like, well, then I could end up doing a top 20. But I thought, you know what, no, just stick it to the 5. So the way I've decided to do this one is by thinking not only just of what happened in the actual match, but also the build up, the aftermath, the whole thing surrounding the match itself, the story build up, the story ending, the rivalry at the time, all them different factors I've included in this one. And to be honest with you, I'll probably do it with some others going forward. Normally I just read out like a play-by-play sort of thing of the big spots that happen in a match, but I thought I'd go for this one a little bit different. Plus it made it easier for me to be able to then whittle it down to 5, because it was like his top 5 most memorable matches, or his most memorable rivalries, or his most memorable storylines going in or out of a match. All these different things then became a factor, and it made it easier for me to rank Randy Orton's matches. So, having said all that, if you are still with me 5 minutes after rabbiting on about Randy Orton, I'm going to go through the top 5 matches, starting obviously at number 5, working my way down to the very best. The match I deem to be the very best Randy Orton match of all time. And as always, you can always play along with me. You can always give me your opinions. Let me know if you think there's anyone I've missed out. If there's any matches that you think shouldn't be in here. Let me know your top 5 Randy Orton matches. You know, that's what it's all about. It's all about opinions. I'm not going to say it's fact. I'm not Dave Meltzer. I'm not telling you this is fact. It's all based on opinions. So obviously if you've watched any of my other videos, you know pretty much how this goes by now. But we will start with number 5. And I've gone for Randy Orton versus Chris Benoit, SummerSlam 2004 for the World Heavyweight Championship. Now, it's that match that WWE don't want you to remember actually happened in Randy Orton's career, obviously because of what happened with Chris Benoit, which we won't go into because that's not what we're here for. I'm not giving thoughts and opinions on what happened there. I'm just going to talk about, you know, the match in terms of Randy Orton. So, fresh off a great run as Intercontinental Champion, the Legend Killer won a battle royal for the opportunity to face Chris Benoit for the world title, his first world title match. Evolution was basically built to keep the World Heavyweight Championship around Triple H's waist, but young Randy started to want to make history in his own way. The match was a decent match between the two, with Orton then catching Benoit with an RKO. You know, as we like to say now, it's an RKO out of nowhere. After countering the cripple crossface to pick up the victory and become the youngest World Heavyweight Champion at just 24 years old. One of the main reasons I picked this match was mainly for the shock factor, as everyone expected the Rabbit Wolverine would retain the world title. You know, he'd had a grueling match at WrestleMania against Triple H and Shawn Michaels to win the belt. Then he had the rematch at Backlash, you know, two absolute icons in wrestling. And then he'd face like the Big Red Machine and Kane and stuff like that. So when a young Randy Orton was coming up, who, yeah, he had a great run as Intercontinental Champion. He'd just come off the back of a great match which didn't make the list but could have easily, his Intercontinental Championship match against Edge, where he lost the belt to Edge. You know, that's another brilliant match of Orton's and one of their best between the two of them. No one was expecting Orton to get pushed this quick so soon after just dropping the IC title, and obviously still being a part of Evolution. It was like, well, where does that go? So again, another reason why I've added this in is because following the match, when they had the rematch on Raw, Randy Orton was kicked out of Evolution in what I deem to be one of my absolute favourite moments in Raw history, in wrestling history, in WWE history. I absolutely loved the whole Evolution story and the way they split them. You know, the way they split Randy Orton, getting hoisted up on Batista's shoulders and the thumbs down situation, and they just laid them out and bust them open like say Randy Orton, then come back as a face, which I actually enjoyed that short stint of him being a face. I remember, what was it, back in 2004, so I would have been 13 at the time, so I knew it was like predetermined, but most of it still felt real to me. So I was like absolutely livid that Triple H then took the title straight off Randy Orton. But like I say, for this, the reason why I've gone for this is the storyline build up, the aftermath, you know, Randy becoming the youngest ever world champion, you know, the shock factor of him actually beating Chris Benoit. You know, Benoit hadn't really had the title that long. He'd had it a few months at this point, maybe 5, possibly 6 months. And then Randy Orton comes along, like say, young blood, and he beats him, pins him, without any outside interference from Evolution. And he pins him clean in the middle of the ring. So that was another reason as well. There was no shenanigans, or he didn't have to cheat to win. He was young, but he done it all off his own back, and it was a really decent match and a very good storyline to boot as well. So in at number 4, there's so many matches, like say, that I wanted to put in and couldn't put in, and in the end, when I found this new system that I decided to use for this video, that's how it became easy to then pick the matches. But there was a couple of matches that I had in originally that I then took out. So I mean, there is so many Randy Orton matches that you could do, and so many Randy Orton videos that you could do in general. Like you could do his top rivalries, his top championship matches. You could literally do his top characters, his top gimmicks, his top storylines. You know, there's so many things you could rank with Randy Orton because he's been going for that long. He's so consistent in what he does. So in at number 4 we have versus The Undertaker in a Hell in a Cell match, Armageddon 2005. And so Randy Orton versus The Undertaker was a great rivalry which took Randy Orton to the next step in his career. After Orton failed to defeat The Undertaker at the grandest stage of them all, WrestleMania, Orton went back-to-back victories against the Dead Man in a one-on-one match at SummerSlam with help from his father, Cowboy Bob Orton Jr. He dressed as a fan, if you remember. He was like a popcorn thing. He had like this grey suit on, he had this mask on. You couldn't, like one of them rubber masks, couldn't quite tell who it was. Goes to get in the ring, and then obviously distracts Undertaker, and Randy gets the RKO and the victory, and then you see him try and peel off the mask, which didn't really peel off properly, so the reveal was a bit crap. But that was his victory at SummerSlam, you know. Then we had the handicap casket match, which, you know what, very nearly made it into this because I rewatch that match all the time. I love it. I think it's fantastic. It's not exactly great wrestling wise, but storyline wise, it's brilliant. And it's one of those shock factor matches as well. Like if I try and get someone into watching wrestling, or if I say to someone, oh, you need to check this out, you know, if someone hasn't seen it before, or like say hasn't watched wrestling before, and they're like, oh yeah, it's just fake, they don't even hit each other properly, blah blah, and then I'll stick like the songs. Like I suppose it depends on the era. Like a lot of people obviously growing up with the Attitude Era probably put on like Undertaker vs Mankind and the Hell in a Cell, you know, the big shock factor where Mankind goes off the top of the cell and stuff like that. Mine was always this, the No Way Out handicap casket match, where at the end of the match they put Taker in the casket, and then Orton's on top with an axe, and then pours all the petrol, the gasoline all over the top, and then inside, and then lights a match, which if you look at it, Randy actually nearly sets fire to his foot as well, because as he's doing that, it goes everywhere, all over the floor, goes over his shoe. And if he'd have stepped back a second later, he'd have been in flames himself because he was covered in it. But yeah, that is always a match to go to and go, yeah, what's this? And they're like, oh yeah, oh yeah, it was okay, not really my thing. And then obviously they get up the ramp, and then he starts taking action, like, what the hell is he doing? And he puts the petrol on, they're like, yeah, but they're not really going to do that, or it's not going to be real flames. You know, how they're going to fake flames, I don't know. And then he sets fire to it, and then you just see the person sitting there going, oh my god, so is he dead then? Did he just kill him on TV? It's like, no, it doesn't work like that. But so yeah, so for me, the Hell in a Cell match, for me was the best of the feud. You know, after Undertaker returned at Survivor Series, which was a brilliant return. Also, Survivor Series was synonymous with Randy Orton at the time. He seemed to be the sole survivor in the Survivor Series team matches for 2003, 2004, 2005. I think, was it 6 or 7 he lost the first one when DX became a thing again, which was so frustrating again for a Randy Orton fan like myself. I really wanted Survivor Series to be Randy Orton's thing, like Undertaker had WrestleMania. So like I say, after Undertaker returned to Survivor Series, there's only one match type that would suffice as the end of the 9-month rivalry. I'm really glad as well this match actually happened in WWE back then, where you were still allowed to get colour. You know, Hell in a Cell matches are supposed to be brutal. They're supposed to be career defining, you know, career shortening matches, and then you have them where, you know, like the Seth Rollins and the Fiend one where there's a DQ in it. It just makes no sense. So there's been multiple Hell in a Cell matches where there's not even a spot of blood, and you're like, well, it's not really that much of a thing anymore. Like back then, you used to be able to get bust open, which obviously happens in this match. You know, we even have tables being brought into the ring as well. You know, it was so much better that it was back then. You know, Randy's had Hell in a Cell matches since, like against Jeff Hardy, against Drew McIntyre as well, and they've been decent, and there have been some really good matches, and there's been some other ways Randy's been able to make people's stomachs turn, like with the Jeff Hardy situation with the screwdriver in his ear and stuff, rather than getting the blood. But I always feel like Hell in a Cell matches, cage matches, that type of matches, you need a bit of blood. It needs to look authentic. It needs to look like this match really, really hurts. And obviously back then they were able to do so. Undertaker gets the victory in this match, and the rivalry was indeed ended. And then we get that iconic shot of Undertaker at the top of the Hell in a Cell as Randy Orton's then being escorted to the back. Now, as I was looking up matches and different lists and everything else to find out, where do we even start, what matches do we look at, what pay-per-views do we look at, like say, Randy Orton is one of my favourites. There was so many matches already going around in my mind where I was like, it could be this, could be this, could be this person was good who we faced, this person he had great chemistry with. So I was looking at different lists and everything else to go, alright, yeah, okay, that was a really good match. Sometimes you do forget things, like say, it's been 20 years of being a Randy Orton fan, like I can't remember what I did 20 days ago, but I've come across this thing, like I think I vaguely have come across it before, but I can't really remember, something called Wrestle Crap, and the reason why I bring it up is because they went and looked at Randy Orton versus The Undertaker. I'm not sure when it was from, I just clicked on the article because it said something about the rivalry between Randy Orton and The Undertaker, and there is actually the Rivalries documentary if you haven't seen it yet. I think that was last season, which is The Undertaker versus Randy Orton, which is a really good episode of Rivalries to watch. If you missed this, or if you just want to go back and look at it, that is definitely a good way to do it, where you get both of their viewpoints as well. But this Wrestle Crap basically literally craps on the storyline of Undertaker and Randy Orton. I didn't read it, I clicked on it, I read a bit, like the first few bits, and they were like basically crapping on it from the get-go, saying it's like it's a 1 out of 10 storyline and it's one of the worst things in wrestling and blah blah blah. And I was just like, oh my god, you guys are idiots, like absolute idiots. Like Randy Orton versus The Undertaker was fabulous, it was phenomenal. Like say back then in 2005, I would have been like 14, so I suppose these dudes are probably about 40s, 50s, whatever, crapping on everything because that's what people do and it's cool to do. But like to a 15-year-old me, especially as both of Randy Orton and Undertaker fan, this was fantastic. The storyline they were doing, some of the things they were doing, like Randy Orton driving Eddie Guerrero's lowrider with Undertaker on the back through the screen at the top of SmackDown was great. Where they were doing the dummies that were dressed up like Undertaker, and then there was the dummies that were dressed up like Randy Orton and Bob as well. Them different things. It was something different, and it was just always kept you guessing what they're gonna do. Randy Orton looking at himself in the mirror backstage, and then Undertaker's there in the mirror, and he goes and then turns around and he's not actually there. It's cool. That's the type of thing that was great back then. I suppose it is different when you look at it as a kid compared to an adult, but obviously I've got them memories of watching it as a kid, so for me it's always gonna resonate with me as being something that I really enjoy. But the matches, you can't crap on the matches were great. So that is number 4. So number 3, I've gone for Randy Orton versus John Cena. Which one? I've gone for one that people probably wouldn't actually rate as the top match between the two, but I do. I really rate this match highly, and I've gone back and watched it multiple times over and over. It was unifying both the WWE Championship and the World Heavyweight Championship in a TLC match at the TLC pay-per-view back in 2013. Speaking of Orton's greatest rivalries in WWE, John Cena definitely needs to be up there as one of them. A great face to Orton's heel, and obviously the top 2 stars in the company at the time. In 2013, the brand split had become irrelevant, so shock, it would become relevant every time they do a draft. It's irrelevant. Like they done a draft a couple of months back, the whole thing's irrelevant. Like you've got people challenging for the other titles, and people like Cody Rhodes just showing up on every show. I don't know what's going on there. But yeah, like I say, the brand split had become irrelevant. So it was no surprise when WWE would then look to make just one single champion rather than two. Going into this match, and with WWE's track record, John Cena was probably the favourite to win, so it was a surprise when they went with Randy Orton as the guy. So, as a Randy Orton fan, watching Randy versus John Cena, at the beginning there was a bit of back and forth, Randy would win, John Cena would win, Randy would win, John Cena would win, and then it just became sort of like all the big matches that they had, John Cena started to then get the victories. It seemed like they were pushing him a lot more than what they were doing Randy, and then obviously they split them up again, put them back on opposing shows, both become world champ, and then it's like, oh, they're going to face one last time. Well, it's obvious what they're going to do there. They're going to put both belts on John and leave Randy by the wayside. But that didn't happen. So again, it's like the Chris Benoit one. This gets in here as well for the shock factor. Maybe I'm naive in thinking that John Cena was the favourite, but I don't think I am. But it definitely seemed like that to me going into it, that it was going to be another bad night for the Orton fans. The end of this match is absolutely brilliant. Randy Orton handcuffing John Cena to the ring ropes, and then slowly starting to go up the ladder, mocking Cena like, there's nothing you can do, I'm going to go up, take the belts, game over, taking the mic, it doesn't matter how long it takes doing this, you're not going to be able to stop me. And then John Cena quickly gets to the corner and starts undoing the turnbuckle, takes the turnbuckle off, and then starts climbing up the other side of the ladder to obviously stop Randy and hopefully get the belts himself. Randy obviously sees that the rope is still attached to his handcuffs, and he jumps down off the ladder, comes around the side, grabs hold of the rope and starts to pull. Now, stood up in the other corner is a table, so as he then pulls, swings him off, absolutely rags the rope. John Cena goes off. But as he comes off, he doesn't take much flight, probably because of the restriction of the rope. So normally you'd expect him to go in like the table like that. So most of his chest, his stomach, and that takes the brunt of it. So it'll collapse and go through. But that didn't happen. So as he comes off, he doesn't get that much height, and his skull literally hits about just under midway. So it's not even like at the normal breaking point, it's like midway in the table, isn't it? So it just goes like that when you fall on it. This was near one end. So the crack sounded brutal. It looked brutal. John Cena legit looked like he was knocked out cold. It's just a sick ending. And then Randy Orton climbs up, gets the belt, and becomes the guy, the only guy in WWE for a short period of time. So that is my number 3, and one of the main reasons, obviously, like I say, is Randy Orton getting one for the bad guys, getting one for the villains, and coming out on top. So I have number 2. What could be number 2? Well, it's Randy Orton versus Christian at SummerSlam 2011 no holds barred match for the World Heavyweight Championship. In 2011, the World Championship flitted between both Randy Orton and Christian. While it would have probably been better if the title reigns would have actually been a bit longer, it didn't take away from how good the rivalry was and how good the actual singles matches were as well. Orton was probably Orton was probably Christian's best singles feud in WWE. In fact, both of Christian's world title reigns were by beating Randy Orton and ended by dropping them back to the Viper. This match for me though is the best out of the bunch. Like I say, although it would have been better if Christian didn't win his first ever world title and then drop it back like a week later, and then win his second and then drop it back like a month later, like just so he can claim he was 2-time world champ. Like, I'd rather Christian be a 1-time world champ but hold it for the duration of this rivalry, and then drop it back at the end, so for like, I don't know, a couple of months, 4 months maybe, something like that, 4 or 5 months. But I think it was just more of a case of, everyone wants you to be world champs, so we're going to give you the world championship, but we're going to take it away because you went to TNA for a while. That's what it felt like to me anyway. So, like I say, for me, again, another top rivalry. Probably Christian's best feud in WWE as a singles wrestler. You know, Randy Orton really helped cement Christian as a main event star at that time. Like, it didn't last long, but at that time he did actually feel like a main eventer. He did actually feel like he should be the world champion, because, you know, their rivalry worked together so well. And it was just one of them things that some of the storylines, some of the stipulations were a bit crap in it. Like, you know, the whole, if you get DQ, you're going to drop the belt. If there's a discrepancy with the referee, you're going to drop the belt, and whatever else there, if there's outside interference. But this one for me is probably the best, you know, no holds barred. Just absolutely went at it and showed exactly what the two of them could do if they were given the right amount of time and opportunities, and given Christian to really show that he should be up there as a top guy, like he'd been in TNA, and like he's been doing in AEW. So at the end of the match, Christian took a brutal RKO onto some steel steps, and then loses the world title once again, with Randy Orton becoming victorious. Sometimes in wrestling, two wrestlers just really gel together, and you know, you if you look at things over the years, you know, like John Cena and Edge is a perfect example. Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio is another perfect example. You know, there's so many wrestlers that when you think of one, you think of another type of situation. And I feel like with Randy Orton and Christian, if you talk about Christian, especially as running WWE, if you say Christian, I feel like the first person you think of is Randy Orton, and they just really gelled and meshed together, and were able to pull off some really good matches. But for me, this match at SummerSlam is not only Randy Orton's second best match in WWE, it's definitely, I'd probably say, Christian's best match in WWE as a singles wrestler. Obviously, I say singles wrestler because he's got the TLC matches and everything else. You know, the tag team with Edge and that's something separate. But singles wise, I think this is his best one, and I even put this in my top 10 SummerSlam matches of all time. I did a few years ago before I was doing the YouTube. I was just doing the video straight to the wrestling group on Facebook, and this match made it in that. So that is 5 down to 2, so we'll run through it now, and then we'll get to what is the greatest Randy Orton match of all time. But if you've stayed here this long, you will probably already know what it would be. So number 5 is versus Chris Benoit at SummerSlam 2004 for the World Heavyweight Championship. And at number 4, it's versus The Undertaker in a Hell in a Cell match at Armageddon 2005. And at number 3, it's versus John Cena to unify both the WWE and the World Heavyweight Championships in a TLC match at TLC 2013. Number 2 was versus Christian at SummerSlam 2011 in a no-holds-barred match for the World Heavyweight Championship. So what could indeed be number 1? Now, if you know me, I talk about this match all the time, especially when we're talking about Randy Orton. I will always bring this match up because it is one of my favourite matches of all time, not just my favourite Randy Orton match. So number 1 is Randy Orton versus Cactus Jack at Backlash 2004, a hardcore match for the Intercontinental Championship. If for any reason you are watching this and you have not seen this match yet, then I don't know what you're doing. So go away and watch this match after this video. Go and watch it, then come back. Get in the comments and tell me that I was right putting this at number 1. Now, tell me what you thought of it. I love it. I'll watch it over and over and over again. So, if anything, doing this video was probably just an excuse for me to rewatch this match yet again. So, Foley was fantastic at getting guys to the next level, and his rivalry with Randy Orton in 2004 did just that. The Legend Killer gimmick was in full effect at this point. Again, like I say, I don't know anyone who didn't enjoy the Legend Killer gimmick, even when they brought it back a couple of years ago. But it was in full effect at this point, which was the main focus of this feud in the beginning. But these two did so well in really making you believe they absolutely hated each other, and that's when you know that the storytelling is really good, and I know a lot of it was Mick Foley's ideas. Evolution defeated the Rock and Sock Connection at WrestleMania 20 with Orton pinning Foley. Foley then quit the WWE, only to return at the Royal Rumble and eliminate Randy and himself. He comes in, goes over the ropes with Randy, and takes himself out of the match as well. Foley then challenged Orton for the Intercontinental Championship, but in a hardcore match, which would take Randy out of his comfort zone and give the fans a glimpse into a different side of Randy Orton that we now are accustomed to, but back then we hadn't yet seen. Foley turned up at the match as Cactus Jack, which shocked a lot of fans and got a lot of people excited really early doors in the match, and took Orton to the realms of extreme, with thumbtacks, tables, barbed wire, baseball bats, etc. involved in this, was Foley making sure that Orton earned his victory. He really made sure he took that punishment to get the rub and the push for the match. Fans thought that obviously Cactus Jack would be the one to get the victory, with it being his style of match. The way the storyline had been going, you were expecting the usual babyface triumphant return to get the win over the evil villain. But in the end, it was actually the Legend Killer who hits an RKO, a sweet RKO, onto the barbed wire bat to get the victory. This brutal match showed just how badass that the cocky youngster could actually be. And this is not just my favourite Randy Orton match, but it's one of my all-time favourite matches, and I've watched it multiple times. So yeah, absolute phenomenal match. I don't think anyone here can argue the fact, I mean, I hope not, but obviously, like I say, let me know in the comments if you do, can argue the fact that this is the greatest Randy Orton match. And to be honest with you, it's one of my absolute favourite Cactus Jack matches as well. I know I didn't watch a hell of a lot of ECW when I was growing up, so don't have the same ties to that as what I did with obviously WWE and WCW, but definitely in the realms of WWE, this is one of my favourite Cactus Jack matches as well, and the storyline and rivalry was fantastic, and this match actually made me say that Randy Orton was my favourite wrestler. Obviously Stone Cold was my favourite wrestler for years, and then obviously he retired and went home. Took his ball and went home because he didn't want to lose to Brock Lesnar. So when Stone Cold retired, I was then looking for a new favourite wrestler, and then I watched this match and rewatched it and watched it again and watched it a little bit more. And then, like say, Randy Orton then goes against Chris Benoit, who is one of my favourite wrestlers. I loved Chris Benoit at the time. And then he gets the win, like say, that he probably shouldn't have had it. It was probably too early, but it was definitely one that we weren't expecting, and then it just grew and grew and grew from there, and I just loved every minute of it, and that's when Randy Orton became my favourite wrestler, and it was from Backlash 2004, which is nuts because we are now in 2024, so it is 20 years old this year, this match. It's mad to think that makes you feel old. I had hair and no beard back when this match happened. So as always, like I say, thank you for watching. If you agree, disagree, let me know in the comments. List me your top 5 Randy Orton matches, and I'll definitely be doing some more Randy Orton videos in the future. I'll be doing definitely some more Randy Orton rankings videos too. So like I say, let me know in the comments what you agree and disagree with, and as always, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already, and always be sure to get ready for more wrestling related content coming your way very soon from the Wrestling Group. So thank you and good night.